Yo, what's up everybody? This is Ron wanting to draw. Today's video will be about what materials and resources I use to create a comic. If you're new to the channel, my goal is to create a comic called Lights On from start to finish and to show you the process on this channel. So about the resources, why are they important? Well, for me, resources play a big part on how a comic book will look, feel, and read, ultimately. So for example, my comic will be created mostly digitally, so I'm not going to use a lot of traditional methods to create it. But anyways, let's get started. I'm going to separate these into categories of physical and digital resources. Also, if you want to skip ahead of the video to certain parts you might be interested in, the timestamps are in the description below. Keep in mind that these resources are subjective, so not all these you need to create a comic. First, I will start with the physical resources. For this, I'm also going to split them into different groups, such as physical materials, how-to resources, design inspiration, panel and lettering inspirations, themed inspirations, and also personal inspirations. So on to the physical materials. I have a sketchbook here with a clear straight edge. I use it for random sketches and concept ideas. And here's my Micron 01. I mostly ink those concepts with. And the Graph Gear 500 is one of my favorite pencils. But overall, I use these just for quick ideas and just to flesh things out later on a digital tablet. Also got Bodycoon here, aka Stan the Man, looking like Vision out here. I got him for like 50 bucks on Amazon, but I don't think they sell them at that price anymore. But mostly use him for just, poses that I really can't think of, and it really helps me with just overall referencing. Now on to how-to resources. So the first book I have here is the Screenwriter's Bible by David Trotter, and even though this is more dedicated towards movies and screenplays, it's really good for comics. I find it works well with creating storyboards and whatnot, so it's very good. The next I have is the Complete Guide to Self-Publishing Comics by Comfort Love and Adam Withers. It's a great all-in-one guide to help you take your concept from that to a script all the way up to your marketing phase. It's really good. The next book we got here is the Freehand Figure Drawing Illustrations by David Ross. This helps me personally just visualize in 3D. Just when I take a look at it from time to time, I'll just pull this out just to give me some ideas. Next we got the Writing and Selling Your Mystery novel by Haley Epworn. This is a really good guide to help you plan, twist your plot, and create a pretty much a viable surprise ending. It's a really good book if you're trying to create mystery stories. We got How to Cheat in Photoshop Elements by David Ash and Steve Kaplan. And I know this is it's pretty old, but it's still good for the basics when I get rusty in Photoshop, so I still pull this bad boy out from time to time. So next we're at design inspirations, which are pretty much art styles, character designs, and color palettes that I'm inspired by. First we have Tandem by Nicholas Draper Ivey. If you don't know of him, he's really good, really love his work. Really like the gritty design style that he chooses to put in all of his works. It really tells a story with his characters. Next we got the Book of Revelations, illustrated by Chris Cole. And I'm really enjoying how the spiritual beings are being depicted, and I want to implement a touch of this in my own comic. It's really dope. And also we got Apple Black by White Manga. I really like how his characters are designed and fleshed out, and they always seem to have personality to them. But yes, also if you haven't heard of White Manga, also check him out. He's here on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you might know about that. So next we're at paneling and lettering inspirations. So this is how I'd like to see my panels and letters in my own work. So we'll start with Naruto chapter 25 by Masashi Kishimoto. And I feel like he does a great job with using very few words per panel, making it a lot easier to read. Also, it's Naruto. So next we have Messiah Origins by Mark Array, Kai Carpenter, and Matt Dorff. I really enjoyed seeing how they could make panels in a verse-by-verse Bible scripture format without making it seem as if it was thrown together or the pacing was off by some chance, but it really fits together like it's some poetic painting. It's really awesome. It's cool. You should check it out. So now we're on to theme inspirations, and that's simply works that have a similar theme to the story that I want to tell. So we'll start with the first book, which is CSI, written by Max Allan Collins, and mostly like this book because I really like mysteries and investigative type stories. So seeing CSI in a comic form was really dope for me. Next, we have Brody's Ghost by the OG Mark Crilley. I really like the supernatural theme and how it affects the main character's actions and his goals in the story. And man, if you haven't heard of Mark Crilley, please see your boy. He's still up on YouTube. So next we have Ikigami by Motoro Mace or Masi. Not sure if I said that correctly, but I like how it shows how a broken system can affect everyday people, no matter how advanced the system may seem. And plus the conspiracies of this being an experiment in real life drew me in. And last, we have personal inspirations, and for me, that's just things that really inspired me to just start this comic to begin with. As far as physical things, we have my sketchbook being the first thing, and I really have had this sketchbook for about 7 or 8 years, and through it all, the concept, I wanted to make sure that it stayed fairly consistent, although it has changed over time, and that's a good thing. I also wanted to see how much I've grown as an artist, and just, overall, just seeing how my style changed. So this next one is called This Is Your Life by Chick Publications, and I really like this one personally because I got it about 7 or 8 years ago when I was a manager at a restaurant, and it pretty much shows the gospel in about 22 pages in this golden age style comic format. It's really nice. So last we have is the Bible, and it's definitely not least by any margin, but it's something that has always inspired me for just about anything, but for particularly this comic. There's a particular scripture for me in Ephesians 6:12, and it states, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And I've always wanted to make a comic that shares that reality. Now that we've covered the physical materials and resources, I'll go over the digital resources. I'm also going to separate these into different categories such as applications, references and resources, and hardware devices. So let's start with the hardware devices. I have a first generation 12.9 iPad Pro. It has 128 gigs of storage, which is not bad considering I haven't, filled up the storage yet, and I've had it for a while. It has a 2732 by 2048 resolution at 264 pixels per inch. Compared to, I want to say, a Wacom 1 and a Wacom 16 Creative Pen, those go at usually 920 to 1080p, so full HD display. So this is a pretty good display. It also is fully laminated with anti-reflective coating, and it can hold up to 10 hours of battery life, but granted, when I use Clip Studio, it's a lot shorter than that. It's probably around average 6 to 7 at most when it's Clip Studio, but anything else, it's still been 10 hours. Also, I have an Apple Pencil, which in my opinion has the best of feeling like a real pencil as opposed to a stylus, but I don't like to charge it because I lost the charger adapter, and now I have to use the iPad to charge the Apple Pencil. Also, you do have to change the tips as they wear down over time, but mine has, been faring pretty well. I'm only at the second tip so far, so overall it's a great product. Next, I have the PC that I built. This was intended to be a starter rig, so most of the focus was on me making comics and illustrations rather than something like gaming. I will game at some point though. Some of the specs are Ryzen 3 3200G CPU or APU up to 3.6 gigahertz. I got this because I'm not using a graphics card yet, but I will at some point. Next, I have a MSI A320M A Pro Max motherboard, and I got this because of the ability to upgrade the CPU and the memory. For example, the memory I have now is 16 gigabytes, which is good to start out with, but later I will upgrade to the 64 gigabytes that it can max out at. And lastly, I have a 500 gigabyte storage drive. It's a SSD. So this is good for me right now, but I will get another as a backup drive, so I can make sure I don't lose anything. Also, if you would like to see a video on how I built this PC, please stay tuned for my next video where I'll go over what parts I used and how I built it. Now let's go to applications. The first app is called Comic Draw. I really like this application for its simple interface in creating comics. I'll use this app mainly to create storyboards and scripts. The next app is called Clip Studio. This application can also do just about everything. I plan on using this app for characters, background illustrations, and finalizing panels and lettering. Another app I will use is Pages. I'll mostly use this app to write concepts, outlines, plots, and themes of the story. And last, we have an app called VizRef. It's an application that can take photos and combine them on a board for you to reference for your artwork. I'll use this a lot when creating my characters in, or different situations. Now, lastly, we have references and resources. There are plenty of them out there that I could choose from, but these are the ones I use the most frequently. First, we have Instagram. There's a lot of talented people on there, and just looking at different styles or ideas really keeps me from falling into a slump, to be honest. Next, we have Pinterest, which I mostly use to create pins to study different poses, compositions, and styles. Another resource is YouTube, right? So maybe that's why you're here. But for me, I like to use YouTube like a search engine to find out something that I don't know, but in a visual way. An example could be how to create dope comic backgrounds. So speaking of search engines, another resource is Google. It's 2021, so Google is more or less everybody's resource or something, right? For me, it's mainly using it to find instructions on a particular task that I might not find on YouTube. Like how to back up data in Clip Studio to either iCloud or Clip Studio's cloud server. Another resource I like to use is a website called fantasynamegenerator.com. It's a dope website when you're stuck on giving characters names, or if you just want a particular type of name that fits the setting you created. And lastly, we have ebooks. I could go on and on about the different books that I have or you could use, but to keep this short, I get books that either inspire me to write and draw or get books that teach me how. One that I'm reading right now actually does both. It's called Stan Lee's How to Write Comics. It's a really good book that gives you the history of comics and plants ideas that you should consider when creating a comic. So it's a great read, but like I said, there's plenty others out there that can do the same. But man, I really appreciate you guys for staying until the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button to tell YouTube your boy's out here. If you have any questions or you want to tell me what your favorite material resource to draw comics or manga with, leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel and tap on the notification bell to stay updated on what I do. This is Ron Wanting to Draw, and I'll see you guys next time. Be easy.